I publicly exposed the love letters between my military officer husband and his widowed sister-in-law, destroying his reputation. Then I turned around and married the coldest colonel in the entire military district. The winter of 1987 was bitterly cold. Snow mixed with the cutting wind slashed across my face like knives. I held my daughter, her small body already frozen stiff in my arms as I knelt at the gate of the military compound, screaming again and again, "Michael, come out. Give me back my daughter." Inside the iron gate, the lights were bright and warm like spring. They were holding a lively engagement banquet for my husband, Captain Michael Carter, and his pregnant sister-in-law, Emily Brown. Yes, an engagement banquet, and it was happening while my daughter was burning with fever, desperately needing money for the hospital in the city. My newly promoted husband had taken all of our savings to pay for Emily's prenatal care. He said that the baby in Emily's belly was the true heir of the Carter family. He said the daughter I gave birth to was nothing but a worthless burden. I will never forget Emily's delicate, pitiful face that night. She leaned against Michael's chest, one hand resting protectively on her pregnant belly, and said softly, "Don't blame me, Anna. My health has always been weak. The doctor said, this baby must be protected. Maybe your daughter's fate was just destiny." My daughter lost her life because of the filthy affair between that man and woman. I screamed and cursed, but the only response I got was my mother-in-law's harsh, venomous voice. "What are you crying for? That useless girl was born under a bad star. Dead is dead. Don't you dare upset Emily's pregnancy. If anything happens to our family's precious grandson, I'll tear you apart." The neighbors' whispers stabbed at me like poison needles. No one pitied me. In their eyes, Anna Carter, was nothing but a simple countrywoman unworthy of a promising young officer like Michael. Emily Brown, on the other hand, was educated, refined, gentle, and the widow of a martyr. Everyone thought she and Michael were the perfect match. It turned out everyone knew the truth. Everyone except me. I was the only fool. I laughed bitterly, and the laughter turned into choking until I coughed up a mouthful of blood. The bright red splattered across the white snow like a dying plum blossom. Holding my daughter's cold body, I walked step by step toward the frozen river beside the military hospital. Michael Carter, Emily Brown, and every one of you in the Carter family. If there's a next life, I swear to heaven I'll make you all pay in blood and shame. As the icy water swallowed me, I saw Michael finally run out. But there was no guilt on his face, only anger and disgust. "Crazy woman." That was the last thing I heard. A sharp pain struck my head, and I suddenly opened my eyes. Blinding sunlight streamed through the window. A bright red calendar hung on the wall. June 12th, 1985. I had been reborn back to 2 years earlier. I sat up abruptly and touched my belly. It was flat. My daughter hadn't been born yet. Looking around the small, familiar bedroom, I saw the big red wedding symbol still pasted on the wall. The air carried a faint, sweet scent of snow cake, the kind Emily loved to make. I remembered this day clearly. It was the day Michael was promoted to deputy captain, and the family was holding a celebration dinner for him. And that night, I accidentally discovered the indecent love letters between Michael and Emily. But back then, I was too naive. I chose silence. I chose to believe Michael. I chose to pity that poor widow. My foolish forgiveness only led to the tragic deaths of my daughter and me 2 years later. This time, I won't be stupid again. The door opened, and my mother-in-law, Margaret Carter, came in carrying a bowl of steamed egg custard. A fake sympathetic smile was on her face. "Anna's awake. Eat this while it's hot. Your health is weak. You need to rest and build yourself up so you can give our Carters lots of descendants," she cooed. I looked at her and felt nothing but ice. It was because of this woman that in my last life, I had watched my own granddaughter burn to death for lack of money for treatment, while she and her precious golden grandson were cared for. I took the bowl, and with her hateful eyes on me, I poured the scalding custard straight into the chamber pot at the bedside. "I'm not eating," I said coldly. Margaret's face fell instantly. "What kind of madness is this? I made that for you out of kindness." "Your mother did." I raised my head and stared straight at her. "Did you give a bowl of that to my sister-in-law, too?" Margaret's eyes flickered away. Then she started yelling piously, "Your sister-in-law is a martyr's widow and far weaker than you. I'm only looking after her more. How dare you, as a sister-in-law, argue with her?" "I'm not arguing," I said, smiling slowly in a way she couldn't understand. "I was merely reminding her that my sister-in-law was a widow. Yet, you feed her lavishly every day. Anyone who didn't know would think she's carrying a Carter heir. How dare you slander her?" Margaret hissed like an angry cat, her voice sharp and venomous, spitting insults. "I'll tear your mouth apart today." She lunged at me, claws out. I didn't dodge. I only looked coolly toward the doorway and called, "Michael, how long are you going to watch this?" At the door, Michael walked in a crisp new uniform, upright, handsome, full of swagger. He frowned with a trace of impatience. "Anna just woke. Don't pick on her," he said, then turned to me with that condescending tenderness he always used, sounding almost charitable. "Anna, I know you're upset, but it's not easy for your sister-in-law alone. We should be more understanding. Today's a good day for my promotion. Don't make everyone uncomfortable." It was always like this. Whenever there was any conflict between Emily and me, I was always the one at fault. He always expected me to be magnanimous, to be understanding. In my last life, I spent years deceived by that show of devoted affection. I looked at him and smiled. "Fine," I said. "I won't make a fuss." Not only would I not make trouble, I added sweetly, I'd cook personally some good dishes for him and Emily to celebrate his promotion. Michael and Margaret froze. Clearly, they hadn't expected me to be so reasonable so fast. Satisfaction and relief passed over Michael's face. "That's my Anna. Always so sensible." I sneered inwardly. "Michael, your good days are over." I went into the kitchen, and Margaret reluctantly followed to supervise. As I chopped vegetables, I casually asked, "Margaret, is the key to the locked drawer in Michael's study with you? I remember I put a sweater pattern in there before, and I want to take it out." Margaret's expression hardened with suspicion. "Why are you asking about that?" "That's the place Aunt keeps important things. Don't go rummaging." "Oh, come on," I said with an easy smile. What could I possibly steal from him? Military secrets? I passed the sliced meat to Margaret and added casually, "It's just a pattern sheet. Nothing important, but if it's inconvenient, I'll wait for Michael to come home and get it myself." The more indifferent I acted, the more at ease she became. "Enough, enough. Just focus on your cooking," she muttered impatiently, waving me off before leaving the kitchen. I knew exactly what she was going to do. Check that drawer. And that was exactly what I wanted because, of course, I had never put any sweater pattern inside at all. Not long after, I heard Margaret rummaging through things in Michael's study, drawers slamming open and shut. A cold smile curled at the corner of my lips. I continued calmly preparing dinner, slow and steady, like nothing was out of place. By dusk, guests began to arrive one after another. They were all important figures from the military compound, senior officers, officials, and Michael's colleagues and superiors. The living room buzzed with voices and laughter, filled with excitement and energy. Michael stood proudly in his crisp uniform, shaking hands, smiling, basking in everyone's congratulations. He looked every bit the charming, ambitious young officer, glowing with success. Across the room, Emily Brown sat quietly in a corner, wearing a simple white dress, her light makeup emphasizing her soft, fragile beauty. Her gaze drifted toward Michael again and again, their eyes meeting in midair with tender affection. Her demure, delicate manner drew sympathetic sighs and admiration from the crowd. "Captain Carter really is a man of honor," someone murmured. "He takes such good care of his late brother's widow." "Emily, such a pitiful woman," another agreed. "So beautiful. It's a shame what she's been through, but she and Captain Carter look perfect together, don't they?" Hearing that, Margaret Carter straightened her back proudly, her face glowing with smug satisfaction. I came out of the kitchen holding the last dish, taking in the entire scene with calm eyes. Perfect together, huh? Fine. Tonight, I'd show them just how filthy this perfect couple really was. I set the dish on the table and smiled warmly at everyone. "Thank you, uncles, aunts, brothers, and sisters, for coming to celebrate Michael's promotion with us. To show my gratitude, I've prepared a little something special for tonight's entertainment." Every eye in the room turned to me. Michael frowned, clearly annoyed by my unannounced performance. But with so many people watching, he could only force a polite smile. "Anna, you're being playful again," he said tightly. Emily spoke next, her voice soft and gentle. "Oh, what surprise do you have for us, Anna?" I looked at her innocent face and felt my smile grow brighter. "It's a love letter from Michael and my dear sister-in-law for all of us to enjoy." The words hit like a thunderclap. The lively chatter died instantly. The air itself froze. Michael and Emily's faces went pale in an instant, and Margaret shot up, pointing at me with a trembling hand. "Anna, Carter, you shameless woman. What nonsense are you spouting?" she screeched. "Nonsense?" I said calmly. I slipped my hand into my apron pocket and slowly pulled out a thick stack of letters, holding them high. "Then, please, everyone, listen carefully to how our esteemed Captain Carter pours his heart out to his beloved sister-in-law." I began to read aloud, my voice clear and steady. "My sweetheart, every time I'm in the barracks and think of you, I can't sleep. I wish I could fly back to you right now. Hold your soft body in my arms. That country woman is stupid and dull. She doesn't understand me at all. Only you are my true confidant, my soulmate." Each word rang through the air like a slap, sharp, echoing, and cruel. The color drained from Michael and Emily's faces as if struck by lightning. The room fell into deathly silence. Then came the gasps, the whispers that cut through the still air like knives. Michael's face turned from white to red, then blue, his expression twisting like the colors of storm. Michael lunged toward me, trying to snatch the letters from my hands, roaring, "Anna Carter, shut your mouth." I dodged him easily, stepping aside. "Why?" I sneered, afraid to face what you wrote. "These letters don't just confess your affair. They spell out everything. You two planned this from the very beginning. My marriage into your family was nothing but part of your scheme. And for what? So you, Michael Carter, could have two wives under one roof so that your dead brother's widow could give you a son to carry on the Carter bloodline." I laughed bitterly. "The monarchy's been gone for ages, Captain Carter. Are you trying to preserve the royal line? Sleeping with your own sister-in-law? How noble. Is it your brand of military honor? Is that how you repay the army for the trust they placed in you?" My words fell like iron, ringing through the room. The faces around me shifted from shock to contempt to fury, especially the senior officers from Michael's unit. Their faces had turned as dark as thunderclouds. In the military, moral conduct was everything. A scandal like this could destroy a man's entire career. "No, it's not true." Emily finally snapped out of her daze, collapsing to the floor in tears. Her delicate face streaked with mascara and tears. "It's her. It's Anna," she cried. "She's framing us. She's jealous of the bond between me and Michael. She forged those letters to ruin us." She wept so pitifully that a few of the wives who knew her well began to waver. "Well, how can we be sure those letters are real?" One whispered. "Anna's always seemed quiet, but maybe she's more spiteful than she looks." I let out a cold laugh and slammed the stack of letters down on the table. "Forged. Perfect. Then let's have the paper and ink tested. Let's see whose handwriting it matches, whether it belongs to our honorable Captain Carter. And let's check the dates. You think a woman like me, freshly married from the countryside, could forge letters like these with the right paper stock from 2 years ago?" My gaze turned sharply toward Margaret Carter, who had gone pale as a sheet. "I took these from Michael's study, the locked drawer, and the only person who's ever had that key is my wonderful mother-in-law, Mrs. Margaret Carter herself. So tell me, how exactly did I steal these letters from a locked drawer I've never had access to? Did I sprout invisible hands?" Margaret trembled violently, her lips quivering, but no sound coming out. Just this afternoon, she had checked that drawer herself. It had been locked tight, everything in place. She couldn't comprehend when or how I could have done it. Of course, I didn't tell her the truth that I had secretly made a duplicate key weeks ago when I was washing one of Michael's old jackets that happened to have the key tucked in the pocket. Michael and Emily's faces had turned ashen. The web of evidence was complete. every thread pointing straight to one undeniable truth. They were guilty, shameless lovers who had betrayed everything sacred. And then, just as the silence grew unbearable, a deep, authoritative voice cut through the air from the doorway. "What's going on here?" Everyone turned at once, parting instinctively to make way. A tall man stood in the doorway, shoulders straight, a pair of silver bars and 4 shining stars gleaming on his uniform. It was Colonel Lucas Grant, the youngest regimental commander in the entire district. His expression was cold, his sharp eyes cutting like blades, and the commanding aura around him silenced the room in an instant. Colonel Grant's gaze swept across the crowd before stopping on me, and then on the letters scattered across the table. Michael's superior, Commander Lee, wiped the sweat from his forehead and hurried forward, stammering, "Colonel Grant, sir, you're here. This is just a small domestic matter, a family dispute." Colonel Grant picked up one of the letters, glanced at it briefly, and his expression darkened immediately. "An officer," he said in an icy tone, "involved in feudal corruption and adultery. Adultery with his sister-in-law, disgracing the honor of the military. That's what you call a family matter." Sweat poured down Commander Lee's temples. Anna didn't dare to say a word. Michael Carter looked at Captain Lucas Grant as if seeing both a savior and an executioner. Grant was famous across the entire military district for being iron-faced and incorruptible. He despised men with moral stains more than anything. Bookmark. Go back. "Colonel Grant, it's not true. She set me up." "This venomous woman," Michael shouted hoarsely. Lucas Grant's cold gaze sliced across him, and Michael fell silent instantly. "If there's been a setup, the Discipline Inspection Division will investigate," Luke said evenly. His tone was calm, but carried the weight of unshakable authority. Commander Lee straightened and barked. "Effective immediately, Michael Carter is suspended. All his duties are to be sealed and handed over to the disciplinary committee until the results come out. No visits, no private contact of any kind." "Yes, sir," 2 guards responded in unison. They stepped forward, one on each side, and hauled up Michael, whose legs had turned to jelly. It was over for him. With Lucas Grant handling the case, it would never be swept under the rug. His military career was finished for good. Emily Brown gave a piercing scream, rolled her eyes, and fainted right on cue. Michael's mother, Mrs. Carter, burst into tears, throwing herself toward me, clawing at the air. "Anna, you wretched harbinger of death. You've destroyed our family. I'll kill you." Neighbors restrained her tightly as she struggled and spat curses. I stood there watching the chaos unfold. My expression was blank, my heart calm. No pity, no hesitation. Only the cold satisfaction of revenge, well served. Destroy the Carter family? I thought this is only the beginning. As the room filled with shouting and confusion, I turned to leave that foul, suffocating place. But before I could take a step, a strong hand caught my wrist. I turned and met a pair of deep, unreadable eyes. It was Lucas Grant. In his other hand, he held my household registration booklet, the same one I'd thrown on the table earlier to prove my marriage to Michael. "Comrade Anna," he said quietly, his voice still cool, but with something different this time, something almost gentle. "Do you need me to arrange housing for you?" I froze. The military compound homes were allocated according to rank. With Michael suspended, I'd soon lose that house. And I, a woman from the countryside with no family here and barely a few dollars to my name, had nowhere to go. In my last life, when I was thrown out of that home, I'd ended up renting a damp, windowless basement room in the city. I'd scraped by on part-time jobs, living a life of endless misery. Now, looking at the man before me, the youngest and most accomplished commander in the entire district, born into a powerful family, aloof to the point of frost, untouched by flirtation, feared and admired by every young woman in the compound, I wondered why he would bother helping me. "No, thank you, Colonel Grant," I said calmly, pulling my wrist free. "I can handle it myself. I don't want to depend on anyone ever again." Luke studied me for a long moment. Then, without another word, he handed back my registration booklet. "The Army will see that justice is done for you," he said. I nodded slightly and turned, walking into the night. That night, I didn't leave. I spent the few dollars I had left to rent the cheapest room at the military guest house. I couldn't go yet because I knew the Carters' revenge would come soon. I had to stay. I needed to settle everything once and for all. Sure enough, the very next morning, investigators from the disciplinary committee came to question me. I told them everything. How during my pregnancy, Michael and Emily had deliberately made me eat foods that would harm my body, how they planned to force me into divorce once I gave birth, and every despicable detail in between. With those love letters as evidence, the case against them was sealed beyond question. While I walked out of the disciplinary office, I ran straight into Margaret Carter. Overnight, she looked like she had aged 10 years. Her hair gray, her eyes venomous like a snake, ready to strike. "Anna, you wicked woman," she hissed. "Are you satisfied now? You've ruined my son. You destroyed our family. Does that make you happy?" She lunged at me, trying to grab my hair, but I stepped aside. My voice was icy when I answered. "He brought this on himself. If you have so much energy to curse me, maybe you should go home and ask your precious daughter-in-law whose child she's really carrying." Margaret froze. What do you mean by that?" "Nothing," I said with a faint smile. "I just heard that Emily's late husband had a very close comrade, a man who used to visit your house often. And if I'm not mistaken, that same comrade was recently transferred to our military district." I spoke vaguely, deliberately, but I knew the seed of suspicion had already been planted deep in her mind. A woman like Margaret, selfish and obsessed with her family's bloodline, would never tolerate even the hint of an illegitimate child. She would investigate, and once she started digging, the show would only get more interesting. Sure enough, a few days later, rumors swept through the entire military compound. Emily Brown's child wasn't Michael's at all. It belonged to that so-called comrade of her late husband. It turned out that even before marrying Michael's older brother, Emily had already been involved with that man. After her husband's death, she had used the Carter family's guilt and resources to her advantage, while secretly maintaining her relationship with her old lover and stringing Michael along as her backup plan and financial support. The person who started the scandal wasn't me. It was Margaret Carter herself. After learning the truth, she stormed into Emily's residence and beat her so badly that she miscarried. The entire neighborhood found out. The once pure and gentle Emily Brown became the military compound's biggest disgrace. Her lover was expelled from the army for misconduct, and Michael Carter became the laughingstock of the entire district. The man who ruined his future for a deceitful woman and another man's bastard child. I heard that when the news reached him in confinement, he was so furious that he coughed up blood on the spot, his mind unraveling from rage and humiliation. The final judgment came quickly. Michael was dishonorably discharged and expelled from the party. On the day he walked out of the base, I was standing at a nearby bus stop. He looked nothing like the proud officer he once was. Thin, haggard, eyes dull like a stray dog that had lost everything. When he saw me, he staggered forward, eyes bloodshot, face twisted with fury. "It was you," he shouted hoarsely. "You destroyed me. Why did you have to do this to me? What did I ever do to deserve this?" I looked at him and almost laughed. "What did you do wrong?" I asked quietly. "Michael Carter, ask yourself that question, if you still have a conscience left to answer it. When my daughter died so miserably, where were you?" I asked coldly. "You were holding another woman, celebrating your future together. Just for that alone, everything that's happening to you now is nothing but karma." He had no words. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then he fell to his knees, wailing uncontrollably. I didn't even glance at him again. I turned and stepped onto the slowly approaching bus. "Michael Carter, Emily Brown, Margaret Carter. Every debt you owed me has now been paid in full." The bus pulled away, the scenery outside slipping backward. For the first time, I felt my life could finally begin again. With the compensation the military had given me, I rented a small storefront in the city and opened a clothing boutique. Thanks to memories from my previous life, I knew exactly what styles would become popular in the next few years. My store thrived quickly. Its fresh designs and fine craftsmanship made it stand out. I cut my long hair short and wore the dresses I designed myself. With each passing day, I grew more confident, more radiant. Suitors began to appear one after another. College professors, factory directors from state enterprises, even overseas Chinese who had just returned home. But I turned them all down. Having died once, I no longer dare to treat love lightly. Until one day, an unexpected visitor walked into my store. It was Colonel Lucas Grant. He was no longer in uniform, just plain clothes this time, which made him seem less sharp, but somehow even more composed and striking. Standing among the racks of colorful dresses, he looked completely out of place. "Comrade Anna," he greeted me, his tone still cool and restrained. I smiled at him. "Colonel Grant, what brings you to my little shop today? Shopping for your wife, perhaps?" I teased deliberately. Everyone in the military district knew that Colonel Grant was a lifelong bachelor. No wife, no girlfriend, not even a rumor of one. For a moment, he looked caught off guard. A faint red crept up the tips of his ears, though his expression didn't change. "I don't have a wife," he said after a brief pause. Then he reached into his pocket and placed something on the counter. "This belongs to you." I looked down. It was a military merit medal. "This is from Michael Carter's case," he explained. "As a key witness, your testimony provided crucial evidence that prevented even greater losses for the unit. The entire military district has jointly awarded you a third-class merit medal." I was stunned. I had never imagined that my path of vengeance would earn me such an honor. I picked up the heavy medal, a swirl of emotions rising in my chest. "Thank you, but that's not necessary," I murmured. He watched me quietly for a moment before saying, "Your designs are beautiful." It was the first time I had ever heard him offer a compliment. I chuckled softly. "I'll wait for you." He turned and walked away, his back straight as ever, posture crisp and commanding. I lowered my gaze to the medal in my hands, then looked up at the sunlight pouring through the window. I couldn't suppress the smile tugging at my lips. Maybe heaven hadn't given me a second life just for revenge. Maybe it was also to give me the chance to find my own happiness, my own future. And maybe, just maybe, Lucas Grant was that future. For the first time, I felt my heart begin to beat again because of him.